Day 11, the 19th of May 2023. We had breakfast and checked out of Viole Country Hotel e Ristorante in Assisi, and headed to Pisa, which was around 259 kilometers and took us around 3.5 hours to reach. The walls of Pisa are among the most ancient in Italy to be almost entirely intact. Construction work on the first lot began in 1154 in the area that currently hosts Piazza dei Miracoli. The site was not chosen by chance. The walls were intended to protect not only the cathedral and the future baptistry, but the most vulnerable point from a military point of view, namely the bridge over the Auser to the northwest of the city. This first segment of the wall, erected north of the city from 1155 to 1161, was built of grey limestone, called Marble of San Giuliano, while for the walls erected at a later time, at the end of 1346, the pink grey stone of Asciano. After having lunch at this restaurant, we proceeded towards the Leaning Tower of Pisa. The Leaning Tower of Pisa is a bell tower. The construction begun in 1173 as the third and final structure of the city's cathedral complex. It was designed to stand 56 meters high and was constructed of white marble. 3 of its 8 stories had been completed when the uneven settling of the building's foundations in the soft ground became noticeable. At that time, war broke out between the Italian city-states, and construction was halted for almost a century. This pause allowed the tower's foundation to settle and likely prevented its early collapse. Ancient Pisa was possibly inhabited by the Ligurians before passing under Roman control as a naval base. It became a Roman colony shortly after 180 BC and by 313 AD had become a Christian bishopric. Pisa survived the collapse of the Roman Empire to remain the principal urban center of Tuscany.
Okay, you have to know that the well-known Leaning Tower, which was built just as a bell tower, is not the only monument in this square which lean. Have you noticed that? The cathedral, the church, and the baptistry, the place where people are baptized, they are leaning as well. Yeah. A little bit. Why? Because of the soil. This entire area was a sort of soggy marshy land. So soil with clay, sand, and water. And all the beautiful buildings here are made of marble, and it's a very heavy material. The tower weighs more than 40,000 tons. So I think that's amazing that the tower is. But the base of the Leaning Tower is not very wide, whereas the base of the beautiful church and the base of the baptistry are so wide that the incline is a very small incline, but the lean as well. Anyway, the tower started to lean while they were building it. You know that?
Yes.
Actually, they wanted to build a straight tower, but under construction the tower stopped. The tower was begun in 1173. The first architect built 1, 2, 3, 4 levels, and then the tower started to lean. You know what happened to the first architect? When the what we know is that Bonanno Pisano, the architect who was supposed to be the first architect, when the tower started to lean, decided to build a runway for Pisa. No, just a joke. He was called to Sicily in the south of Italy to carve a bronze door. It was a sculptor as well. When he came back to Pisa, he died. And the tower was still at the third level. You know where it was buried? Where? We say on the Leaning Tower. What we know is that 1 century ago, a tombstone with the name of that architect carved on that tombstone was found.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why.
There.
Yeah. what we know is that 1 century later, a second architect added the upper three levels of a galleries, trying to correct the image of the first one. Taking pictures of the tower from there, or from that area, you can see that the top is straight. Because under construction, they tried to correct the image of the first one. The columns of the upper three levels on the leaning side are longer than the columns on the not leaning side.
Okay.
If you take pictures of the tower from there, you can see the strange shape. And then the very, very top where the bells are was added later by a third architect, but it's straighter. So it's not an optical illusion. I mean, the very top is straighter. And there on the top there are 7 bells, just like the 7 musical rings. Every day you can hear one bell ringing. But in the past, where strong men with long ropes ringing the bells, no longer. Now it's an electronic system. But that church is an active church. Every day, masses are celebrated in that church. That's why every day we can hear one bell ringing. 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the morning, and 12. Just because the tower was built just as a bell tower. Do you know what there is in the tower, inside?
What is in the tower?
Just a spire staircase. When you enter to the door, you can see, if you look inside, you can see that inside there is nothing. The internal part is empty. There is an internal cylindrical wall, and between that internal wall and the outer wall there is a spire staircase, an elliptical staircase, 257 steps. No. Just to reach the bells, 250 And believe me, it's a strange feeling to climb up. Fortunately, you are in between two walls, but you really feel the tower's inclination when you go up. But maybe you know that, but in 1990, the tower had been closed to the public because its inclination was increasing. There was a great risk the tower collapsed. That's why they decided to close the tower, and some measures were taken just to fix and stabilize the tower. In 1993, on the other side, you know that the tower is leaning towards us. We are in a very dangerous place.
Shall we go on the other side?
Maybe it's there. And on the opposite side, you know, the tower is leaning that way. A cement base was placed on the foundation for that tower. On the top, lead counterweights, big blocks, just to press on the foundation of the leaning tower and stop the progression of the inflation. More than 800 tons of lead were placed outside there. But now the blocks are no longer there because the tower has been strengthened and fixed. Later, they decided that the only way to fix the tower was to bring the tower back. To strengthen the tower, but a little bit. They didn't want to strengthen the tower completely. Can you understand why? I could go home and start working as a tour guide. And they decided to strengthen the tower a little bit by the removal of the soil of the ground on the not leaning side. Until 2001 in that area there was a red machine, a sort of hot screw, trying to remove the soil on this side. At the same time, some concrete mortar was injected on this side, just to make the soil more solid. And the tower, the tower has been straightened half a degree. In 1990, when the tower had been closed to the public, its inclination was 5 degrees and half. Now it's 5 degrees, half a degree back. And it's no longer moving, that's why people can climb up. But it's not easy to get the ticket to climb up. No more than 50 people every 50 minutes can climb up the tower. And the ticket is not very cheap. Not at all.
How much?
20 euros. 20 euros. Okay.
20.
When all the beautiful buildings here were built, first the church, the cathedral was begun in 1064. Then in 1153, the baptistry was begun, and then the Leaning Tower. In that period, the city of Pisa was really a very rich and powerful city. Have you been in Venice?
No, we are going to.
Okay, so Venice, and then you know Genova. Pisa and Amalfi were the so-called four maritime republics. I mean, powerful cities with strong naval fleets, conquering areas, trading a lot. That's why the so imposing buildings in this square were built. We can say to show off. That's why they decided to use the famous marble, marble. But the soil was really very soft and heavy material. But it's funny to say that, but Pisa has never been situated on the coast. I mean, now the city is 12 kilometers far from the coast. In the past, the coast was closer, but then in this area there were two main rivers, and the different boats and ships could sail along the two main rivers. But then the different rivers began to silt up. We say rubbish coming from Florence. No, because you have to know that during the Middle Ages, Pisa was stronger than Florence, Firenze. Then Pisa began to lose importance, and Florence came stronger. And in 1406, Pisa was conquered by Florence. That's why there was a big rivalry between Pisa and Florence, and there is still a slight animosity between the two cities. I'm from here. I was born not very far from here. So now I have a very important question for you. Do you know the famous scientist and astronomer Galileo Galilei?
Yes.
Do you know where I was born?
Pisa.
Don't say Florence. I mean, he died in Florence. He was buried in Florence in a church, but he was born here, so it doesn't matter where he died. But I'm talking about Galileo Galilei because just from the top of the Leaning Tower, he carried out his first experiments about gravity. I mean, just from the top of that tower, he dropped down and threw down different objects, different weights, different sizes, and he observed the way the different objects fell down. And he discovered that in a vacuum, I mean, without air, with the atmosphere, different objects of different weights and sizes would fall at the same time. Not here. But there is a strange coincidence. When Galileo Galilei died in 1642, in the same year in Great Britain, Isaac Newton
Was born.
so the reincarnation. And inside that church, Galileo Galilei discovered the law of the pendulum. You know the pendulum? We know that he was in that church for the service, the mass. And at the end of the mass, they switched the candles, and the pendulum started to swing. And he discovered that at the beginning the oscillations are bigger because the speed is faster, then they become smaller. Same time to go from one point to another. Okay. Just a question for you. Do you know why in this area we have a very imposing baptistry and then a cathedral church? In Italy, in very important cities, two separate buildings were built. But do you know why? I mean, why people were not baptized in the church? Because people were not baptized could not enter the most important church. First, they had to be baptized, and then they could enter the church. And the baptistries are always placed in the western area, the area of darkness, where the sun goes down. Once baptized people could enter the church and go towards the east, where the sun rises.
This is a baptistry. The first building is a baptistry. Then is the cathedral.
Symbolism was really
Baptistry,
very.
cathedral, and then the bell.
Just one thing. Just look at the church apse. Can you see the columns are different?
Yes.
There are two red-brown columns made of porphyry from Spain. The Balearic Islands, Mallorca, Minorca, were conquered by the city of Pisa. And those are trophies, the brown columns in the lower part. On the left, on the right-hand side, there are two Roman columns, dating back to the Roman age, recycled, reused. It was really very important to recycle Roman blocks, Roman columns, just to create a link with the greatness of the Roman Empire. And I don't know if you noticed that, but there are some blocks with Latin inscriptions upside down. If you want, I can show you that. right. So it was really very important to recycle, reuse a Roman block. I mean, a block dating back to the Roman age. It was not important the way the block was built. It's not the only Roman block upside down. Okay. Shall we go?
In 1016 the Pisans and Genoese drove the Saracens from Sardinia, and in 1063 the Pisan fleet sacked Muslim Palermo. The city's participation in the Crusades secured valuable commercial positions for Pisan traders in Syria, and thereafter Pisa grew in strength. The city of Pisa retains its 10.5-kilometer circuit of walls. Pisa comprises of a group of buildings in the Piazza del Duomo, the so-called Square of Miracles, located at the northwestern end of the medieval walled city. This piazza contains the cathedral, or Duomo, the baptistry, the campanile, or leaning tower of Pisa, and the Camposanto, or cemetery. Both the cathedral and the baptistry are built of white marble with strips of black in the Pisan Romanesque style, which features colonnades and the decorative use of pointed arches. The cathedral, begun in 1063, a marvelous bronze door by Bonanno Pisano, which depicts biblical scenes, survives on the southern side. Inside the cathedral is a splendid decagonal pulpit carved in white marble built between 1302 to 1311 and restored in 1926 by Giovanni Pisano. The circular baptistry, begun in 1152 but only completed in the 14th century, is covered by a dome surmounted by a cone, which gives the structure an ogival, oriental effect. The Leaning Tower of Pisa, begun in 1174 and completed in the 14th century. Pisa was the birthplace of the scientist Galileo Galilei. The University of Pisa, founded in 1343, had more than 25,000 students in the late 20th century.
Leaning Tower of Pisa. So cute.
Then we proceeded to Padova, which was around 290 kilometers, which took us around 3.5 hours to reach the hotel.